On your left. Oh, that was dope, but So today I'm going to talk about how you can better play the role of being a foreigner in Japan. And you might be thinking, well, you're clearly a foreigner in Japan. Why would you need to play the role, Adam? And, well, let's find out. 100 points if you get that reference. Okay, so, yeah, my Japanese is, well, there's a level. So, N5 all the way up to N1. And N5 is like Duolingo tier. And it's not very good, just like basic forms. And N1 is like not fluent, but no problems in Japan. You can read the newspaper, you know, you can work here with no issues, and you know, anything you'd need to do, you can do it. And my level is probably like in the middle somewhere. It's better than N3, but it's probably not enough to pass N2 yet. But I am conversational. You know, I can do day-to-day basic things, everyday conversation. I can go to a barber shop and have a bit of banter, and I've had relationships with people who don't speak any English, and you know, had meaningful relationships. Meaningful. In my experience, which is 4 years now, I have generally noticed that if you speak English to people, they generally react better. They're more happy to talk with you, they seem to have more time for you, and just the conversation and the experience goes a little bit better. And this is even if they don't speak any English themselves, it still seems to have a better vibe. I often think about Steve Rogers, Captain America, while I'm here. How he's earnest, polite, and just generally he tries to do like the best thing in any situation, regardless of whether that situation is difficult or not. And I think that gels pretty well with how I was raised by my family. And also, if you're ever thinking about going abroad, or more importantly living abroad, I think like those three things are some pretty valuable like rules to live by. Be earnest, be polite, always try and do the right thing, and just generally be like Steve Rogers. Captain America Maxing is this thing I invented while I'm here. And I'm not talking about LARPing or role-playing or being something that you're not. I'm just talking about you probably have a character that you can relate to and that you feel like is like the extreme, like fictional version of yourself. And me, you know, I like sports, I like going to the gym, lifting weights, and generally I try to be polite and chivalrous, you know, holding doors open for ladies and asking them if they need help carrying things. So you just take it to the next level. You know, this doesn't just work for white guys either. And, you know, you don't have to be Captain America. I think it could work for if you're a young black guy here in Japan, then you absolutely should be NCAA baller maxing or future maxing, you know, whichever suits your personality better. And if you're someone who played college sports, looks athletic, you can easily just play up those strengths, and doing so minimizes your weaknesses. So I'm talking about like playing up like positive characteristics that you might have that also match your country's reputation. You know, the English polite British gentleman, you know, it's a positive quality, and probably also you embody some of those things. You're probably quite polite yourself. Or if you're American, you know, that surfer image, or like I said before, college sports image, and being like your most outgoing self, it'll definitely have a better effect, because you get these weeaboos that come here and they're almost like more obsessed with Japan than Japanese people, to like a weird level, and no one wants to see a white man in a kimono. Man be out here looking like Finch from American Pie. Often you'll go into places like Starbucks here, and you'll go to the register, order in Japanese, using Japanese that you've used 1,000 times before, and the staff will respond in English. And the first few times, with like, if you just knee-jerk reaction to it, it can feel like it can wound you. You can feel like, hey, they're implying that, you know, my Japanese is not good enough, or it's wrong, or it's crap, or their English is better than my Japanese, which it probably is. But I found over time that that isn't what's happening there. You know, Starbucks is a recognizable, stylish, like youth-oriented brand. More so here than in the West. You know, it attracts a very like hip crowd here in Japan, and because it's this like recognizable Western cool thing, it attracts a lot of people who are like into meeting foreign people or speaking in English, or they're just generally like outgoing people. And that's what's happening. They want to speak to you and they want to know you, but they like speaking in English. And I've met a few of these types of people, and they tell me that they prefer speaking in English than speaking in Japanese for a few reasons. You know, there's a running theme here that you'll bump into quite a lot. The people who are generally happy to associate with foreigners or want to be like real friends with you, they all have really good English because that's been their motivation to learn English probably like since they were in school. And so you find that with the people that actually want to talk to you, your Japanese is almost useless unless they just humor you by practicing. You know, I learned Japanese, you know, I wanted to integrate as much as possible and, you know, be a good immigrant. And that kind of all flies out of the window, not being good, but just any idea you had of like integrating or, you know, being part of society in a more meaningful way. Definitely need to do a Point Break video here. I think all of this is because when you do speak in Japanese, especially if it's like noticeably a decent level, people will generally expect that you have internalized a lot of other things that are not just language, you know, forms of like address or the manner in which you approach people, or just what they call like reading the air here. So if you speak like passable Japanese, they almost like, I think subconsciously expect that you have also, you know, internalized or learned all the required behaviors or social cues that a Japanese person would naturally have from living here. And this is probably significantly different, say, if you went to Poland as an English person, if you went to Poland or Italy and spoke in, you know, Polish or Italian, because I think like the culture that you would be going to and the mannerisms and the sort of unspoken rules, they would be far closer to your own culture, so there'd be like less of a disconnect there. You might be thinking, Adam, have you heard your accent? You do realize that you're English, right? And yeah, I do. And I take great pride in that. But there's a few reasons why, and I'll get into these in a later video, that you wouldn't want to act like James Bond. Number one being that wearing a suit here is unbearable for 3/4 of the year. You know, it's just early April now and it is so humid. It was banging it down raining last night, but it's still so humid. Even though it says it's like 22 degrees, feels like it's 30. so you're not wearing a suit. And also, you know, Bond is a bit cold and abrasive, don't you think? So try and be more like Cap, whether you're home or abroad. Be polite, be earnest, try and do the right thing. Even if that means you have to go home, listen to Marvin Gaye to make your black mate happy. On your left. So, you got YouTube detention and you stayed around here until the end. Well, if you like this, stick around on this channel for more, because I'll be making lots more videos like this.